Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Ryan Harrison, for those who don't know me. I'm founder, partner of SlowTheGameDown.com, and also director of training for neurodynamic vision. And we've been doing these visual insight seminars, and hopefully everyone's gaining some great information from us. And today's guest that we have is Craig Snider, who's the Texas A&M assistant coach in charge of hitting, who transferred there from how many years again, Craig, at Florida State?
8 years at Florida State.
8 years at Florida State. So most of you guys probably know who Craig, or have seen some things from Craig. Craig and I go back for quite a few years, and so I've seen him grow and become a phenomenal coach, and it's fun and exciting to see. And so hopefully we'll just go over some topics that you guys will find some interest, and any questions, feel free to reach out to us. So Craig, give me a little more background of where you come from and how you got to where you are today.
Well, I appreciate having me on, Ryan. This is exciting and fun, and I was honored when you asked me to do this. So I'm glad we're making this happen. But I've been coaching now for 20 years, which is crazy. I actually started coaching college softball when I was 18 years old at Lindsey Wilson College in Kentucky. I was given an opportunity to help coach and drag the field and do the whole thing, and I did that. And as I was working on my undergrad, and then I spent 2 years there, and then I met Mark Montgomery, who at the time was at Georgetown College in Kentucky, but he took the centenary job, which was Division I at the time, and he asked me to come down and asked if I wanted to be a student assistant coach and help out, and they financially would help me out, and so I did that for 2 years, and then I started meeting people, and then I worked camps at OU, and then I went to OU as a graduate assistant, and that's probably where, Ryan, you and I really probably met each other through Howard Dobson, and so spent some time there, and then I guess once I was done with school, then I took my first real job, I guess, if you will, as the assistant coach at Stephen F.
You have a real job already?
I don't want to call it a real job. It's a hobby. And so I spent 4 years at Stephen F. Austin, and then I got a call from Lonnie Alameda asking if I wanted to be, an assistant coach and hitting coach at Florida State. And I was like, well, that seems like a pretty good deal. So I had grown up.
It worked out pretty good for you.
Yes, it worked out pretty good. We won a few games, maybe a national championship, and then got a call to come here to Texas A&M. And there's always been a few schools on my list that if ever given the opportunity, that I would definitely pursue that. And A&M was one of that. I mean, it's close to family for us, and so I get to be at a great university with a Hall of Fame coach, and get to coach some softball and be around some family. So it was exciting. So good to be here now.
Yeah, well, it's awesome, Craig, because even at Florida State, I was already working with Florida State. I've been doing their winter camps since Lonnie's been there, and prior to that from UNLV, and then on top of it, you got the great Travis Wilson over there, who I originally met when he was a player with the Atlanta Braves, and even to the fact that I worked with the New Zealand women's softball program back then. So it's kind of funny how everything goes full circle. And then, of course, I did some work with Texas A&M, and then having you come over just, was the cherry on top to make that, our program really fit even better with Texas A&M softball. And I know that this is one of the big issues, when it comes to vision and performance, which we'll get into a little bit more. But when you have a staff that really buys in, and a staff that really promotes and pushes into that, the advantages are phenomenal on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, talking about, from a vision side of things, and we talk a lot about hitting, but this has a lot to do with fielding. I always ask these, your players and even you is we know that mechanics are important,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the things we get away from when your players are at their best, what do they say? What do they feel? What do they see when they're at their best?
Oh, I think the cliche, right, is like, I'm seeing it so well right now, right? Like when they're in their best and they're in their zone, or they're on a hot streak, like I'm just seeing the ball so well.
Yeah. And that's what we all want to get into, is how we see it really well. And, vision is so, there's such a variety of different tasks that we do, but maybe for the coaches that don't know, or the players that don't know, kind of give them a synopsis of how we work together this last off season.
Yeah, so we brought Ryan. So Ryan came in and came with us in the fall, and we really started working. We did some evaluations on our players with eyes and just vision and tracking, and we did a lot of that stuff and tried to get a good idea and a good picture of what they needed visually. Because for me, and I've always felt this way, like if we're not good visually, then we can't be good mentally, and if we're not good mentally, we're not going to be in a good spot to hit. And so I think that's where we Ryan and I talk about this all the time, but I think we get lost sometimes in hitting where it's like it has to be all about mechanics, and again, mechanics is a big piece of the pie.
Yeah,
but it needs to be lower down the totem pole, because again, if you're not visual, if you're not thinking about your at bats and how you're being pitched and what you're looking for and how you're going to attack these pitches, it doesn't matter. Like your swing, it doesn't matter. And so I tell them all the time, like, I'll give me an average mechanic swing that swings at the right pitches, and I'll show you a kid that can be an All-American. It's to me, it's that simple.
yeah, yeah. And it is simple, but it's too simple at times that people don't want to give much weight in there. And
No.
it's a lot easier, to say, hey, your arm's doing this, or your stride's
Mm-hmm.
doing this, or you're swinging at a bad pitch, instead of understanding what are you looking at, what are you looking for, and really understand that visual approach to the game.
Correct. Yeah. So I've just always been about that. So when we, obviously Ryan came in this fall, and we really worked hard with our hitters day one, just having a good idea of plate coverage and strike zone recognition. So if we could be good at that, I knew then we would find success. And so it was a matter of let's see what we're swinging at first before we think about how we're swinging at it. And so
from a player standpoint, how is because that's a challenge, and every organization, every coach, all different levels have this, getting the players to buy in and go, what the heck's Craig talking about, man? I want to work on this and work on this, and it's kind of hard, but how do you get the players to trust and understand that approach?
Well, I think I was lucky in regard to like our kids at A&M this year were sponges. They were phenomenal. I walked in first day and we started talking this stuff, and they were just bought in. Now, I think there's got to be some proof in the pudding as well. Obviously, previously it was a lot of success for what we were doing at Florida State and Stephen F. Austin. So there was success there, but I knew going in though too, it was one of those, like, it doesn't matter what you've done, like it's what about you do now that's going to make the difference. And so we worked a lot, Ryan, with the numbers, the plate coverage. We put the numbers down.
Yeah, the zone trainers.
And we just really honed in on that. And then we started to find success in our inter squads. We started finding success when we were working off machine. So the kids started.
Craig, let me interrupt you a little bit, just so people understand what those zone trainers are. And basically, they are they're thin metal pieces that go down the plate that have numbers of 1 through 7 on there. And I know Craig works really hard on, what we talk about. Well, I'm going to backtrack, is a lot of people talk about this idea of pitch recognition. Pitch recognition, and they get caught up in what the release point is, which, believe me, is very, very important. But if they don't know where that ball's crossing the plate, they don't know the trajectory, the late location, it doesn't matter how good they are at early recognition. So this is one thing that is really, really good at giving them as much time as possible, that whole distance of trying to see it and understand where is that pitch crossing, so that they can pull from future, in the future, they can pull from experience and go, that release point, that trajectory, that's going to end up at crossing at 5. I'm good. I like 5, or I don't like 5. And they get to understand what they really like and where balls cross.
Yes. Well, I think the big thing too is when you put that down, it gives them a task. So they're training their vision, and they have no idea that really, because it's like, hey, I want you looking at 3, 4, 5 today. And now we're training vision without even talking about training vision, because now I've got to be visual, because I'm now thinking about what I'm looking for. And so I tend to track the ball a lot better.
Visual intent.
Yes, there's intent there. And so because we've all driven to the office before and gotten to the office and went, how did I get here? because you're kind of spaced out, and it's just a thing. And so I see that in cages a lot where kids can take a round of front toss, and it's like just no big deal, and not really there's no visual intent there. So every day we've got the numbers down on the plate, so now they have to be able to pick something up. And I think too, excuse me, one of the biggest things for me is now it created a common language. Mm-hmm. So now when I said, hey, where was that pitch? And they're like, well, that's a 3. I know what that is, and we have that conversation, which is a difference than then if you don't have that, hey, where was that pitch? Well, it was kind of outside. Well, your kind of outside and my kind of outside are different, right? And so
exactly, and the umpires too, right?
Absolutely. So I love the fact that it creates a common language now. So now we have that language and we use it for everything. So it's hey, today we're working 3, 4, 5. Give them
one of the things that it does too is it gives them an external thought instead of an internal thought.
Yes, correct.
Or and I honestly, the wrong word. It should be an external focus instead of an internal focus.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, it does, and so it just I'm a huge fan of these trainers. Obviously, I've bought a lot from you, and I use them. And we use them all the time. And so
one of the questions I get, and I have a question from a college coach that was sent to me about what's the recommendation to implement a visual train for programs who lack funding and resources, drills, program tools, etc. So, those are questions we get a lot of times, and the stuff that we're talking about right now, that's not an expensive electronic technology equipment that needs to be in there. It's very inexpensive. It's very easy to implement within practice. It's not taking you, oh, wait a minute, we can't work on hitting because we got to work on vision. No, this is our simple drills, simple tools that can be implemented in what you're already doing as a coach.
Absolutely, and it's easy, And I like to do it too, where you give them certain tasks off the machines or live, and and you say, hey, why don't you look, 2 through 4, 2 through 5, it's always put that in there, and I like for our players to stand behind that batter as well, and give them feedback. And so, say if they're off the machine and the pitch is thrown, and they say that was a 3. I want the player behind them to go, yes, that was a 3, or no, that was a 5. And I think it does 2 things, right? One is calibrating your strike zone. Like every time you're getting a pitch comes in, like you're starting to calibrate. Oh, okay, that's what it looks like on the corner. Oh, that's what it looks like down the middle. Ooh, that's what a 7 looks like. That's off the plate. But it also makes our players be accountable, because human nature is to not want to ruffle any feathers, right? And so if you're giving bad information, like, hey, that was a 3 and really was a 4, like, yeah, that was okay. Like we're not getting better now. So it challenges our players now to give that information and help their teammate out. And so, and again, if you start to calibrate the strike zone, it's huge. And I think that's when the biggest thing for me is with that, when you start to swing at pitches that you can cause damage with, that's when your numbers go up. And so we're not talking about changing a swing or doing this, and you got to flip this and do this and all these things that we see right now. It's like, hey, let's swing at the right pitches. If you swing at the right pitches, guess what's going to happen? You're going to hit balls in the gap. You're going to hit balls that leave the yard. And the proof's in the pudding for that. Like it's a mental and visual approach, and you will cause way more damage by looking at things this way or looking at hitting this way versus trying to change the swing every, if you go in a slump for 10 at bat and then trying to change your swing. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I got 2 thoughts on that. I mean, first of all, what you're talking about is confidence. And really what I talk about is visual confidence. If you have visual confidence, that mental confidence and that physical confidence come in. Now, my other thought on this is the problem, and we could probably talk for an hour, 5 hours probably on this, especially with the way Twitter is and everything about mechanics, and you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. Honestly, I'm more confused about hitting than ever when it comes to reading some of that stuff. But if I'm a player and I'm worried about my elbow or my wrist angle or my drive, and every time that pitch comes to me, whether in game, I'm thinking, what does coach think of my angle? Is my elbow dropping? Am I doing this? And as for everyone who's listening, you can think about it right now, is as you're watching the screen, I want you to think about how your left toe feels, okay? And feel your left toe. And now feel how your butt feels against the seat that you're sitting on. And notice what you're seeing just kind of fades a little bit, and you don't see that detail nearly as well. And it doesn't mean you didn't see, it just means you're not tuned into the actual task of looking at something. So you want to get your athletes as ball oriented as you can. Whatever tricks them is the right thing, to be honest with you. Give them a drink that makes them think they can see forever might be the answer as well.
It's dead right. I mean, I was just thinking too, as you're talking about, hitting now and Twitter and whatnot. But I told somebody the other day, like, I really feel bad for young hitting coaches now that are trying to get into this, because if you get on Twitter, you'll just confuse yourself to death. And there's great things on there. Like, I love the fact that there's information out there. Like, it's just so much information, right? Now,
overload though.
Oh, it's overload. But I think our job now as hitting coaches is, we have to, like, the kids nowadays, like, they don't actually need us for information. They can get on Twitter, they can get on YouTube, there's information. If you want to know how to hit a rise ball, then there's going to be 20 videos on YouTube about how to hit a rise ball. Right or wrong, who knows? Yeah. But they need us to decipher the information. And I challenge coaches too, like, we all need to learn everything. So you need to learn the movements. You need to learn the screenings. You need to learn what this is and what this, because kids are coming into the program more and more knowledgeable about what their launch angles are, what their exit velocity is, and what their diamond kinetics readings are, what their blast motion readings are. They know all those things. And as a hitting coach now, like, I need to know all this, and so I need to study this. That way I can filter that information into the program, because there's going to be things that come through. You go, that's a great idea. We're going to do that. And there's going to be other things you go, we're not going to do that, and here's why. And so, but if I don't know the information, then I'm not helping my athletes out and what they need.
Well, ultimately, and it comes back to what we talk about, is confidence, and you got to give them confidence, and you got to give them confidence in the box. You got to give them confidence in the dugout, Absolutely. And you got to give them a plan. And to me, and I may be biased to this, but hitting begins with vision, and even fielding begins with vision. If you're not picking the ball up as a fielder properly, you're going to make a wild reaction to it. If you're not picking the pitch up early enough, you're going to make a quick, drastic reaction to it. If you don't see it late, you're guessing at where you're swiping at it, and you might make contact, and it might be a good success, but it may not be efficient on there. So, that's what you're trying to do, whether it's, because you got to be strong. You got to have a good swing. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to make that engine as efficient as possible, but that engine's got to be able to, recognize first and allow that engine to work efficiently.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Craig, what are other tips, other things that let me put it this way: what are some of the challenges that your players fight with having a visual approach to the game?
Well, I think it's any player, right? Like, it's hard because it's not something that you can measure sometimes, right? You can't measure, like, am I visually seeing it? So you have to really have a good relationship with them. Like, hey, how are we seeing it today? What are you looking for right now? And I think sometimes, especially the younger ones, it just like you said, they step in the box and they'll be thinking about everything except what they're looking for. And so, so that's always been the challenge with hitters is getting them in the right frame of mind, when they step in the box. And I always talk about, like, the last, 3 seconds, you're in the plate, or in the box. Coach is giving you the sign, you step in the box, here it is, boom, pitcher's about to start. Where are you at as far as, your vision? What are you looking for? Are you locked in on a release point, or are you thinking, I'm looking in, I'm looking up, or whatever that is? And so, so we always talk about that. I always talk about the last 3 seconds when you step in the box, because I think that's a really big part of hitting. Is that's where you've seen the movie A League of Their Own, the little Stillwell, the little, like, you're not gonna hit. Like, those demons will creep in on hitters, and we see it all the time. You see it all the time because. This is hard. Hitting is hard. The whole thing is hard. Baseball, softball, doesn't matter. At all levels, it is hard. So being able to control your vision, being able to control your thoughts, huge. And so if you're controlling your eyes, you're going to control your thoughts. You know, and Ryan, we've always talked about that, but it starts with that, and then everything kind of takes, you know, care of it after that. It takes, you know, kind of falls into place. And so, but I think trying to get them to get into that and buy into that, but we have to train that as well. And so that's why I like to use a lot of live arm. And I like to use a lot of machines to challenge them. And then, and it's not so much like you swing through a pitch on a machine. Hey, what you did this wrong. It's like, hey, where were you looking?
Yeah.
You know, where were you trying? We're facing upspin right now. And that's what we talk in terms of spin, like upspin, downspin, or, you know, off speed. And so, hey, you're facing upspin right now. Where are you looking? Where are you trying to attack this pitch? All right, try this now. Hey, you know what? I want you to look above this ball, and I want you to swing. Hey, I want you to look below this ball, and I want you to swing. Hey, I want you to find the bottom third quadrant of this ball and swing. So, and every player is different, but you have to kind of get in and kind of troubleshoot that. But everything is not, oh, you need to do this with your swing. It's, hey, where are you looking right now? What are you trying to attack?
Yeah. So I just look at another question here from someone, but I'll kind of sum this up a little bit. Obviously, we're in a strange time right now that is never happened before, and hopefully will never happen again. What are some of the things, you know, and you know, I don't even know if you have anything necessarily, but recommendations for what players should be doing right now? What they can do.
Yeah. Well, one, stay safe. I mean, this is a bad deal, and obviously the world was kind of shut down a little bit, and so I think the big thing is being smart. But when you get into the softball, baseball side of it, you know, I challenged our hitters. I'm heading up kind of more of the visual and mental approach to that right now, because I don't know that, you know, we're preparing for February, right? So next February, that's what we're preparing for. So how are we going to do that? So, you know, honestly, I think our athletes, for us, is like, hey, you know what? You guys get some rest right now. Like, rest the bodies, but let's challenge ourselves, like, mentally and you know, and work on some vision stuff. And so they've been doing some vision drills and stuff, but they also we watched a documentary, Free Solo, the guy that climbs the mountains with with no ropes and whatnot. But I did that. I watched.
Is that your next experiential training for your team, as you guys are all going to free solo a mountain?
Absolutely, that's what we're doing. Just me watching that thing, I had butterflies, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm like, oh, geez. But the mental side of what he does, and being very present and being where your feet are, is so prevalent in that. And, you know, you have to be very visually focused on where you're going. And it's not about what I just did wrong, because in free soloing, if you do something wrong, you're probably not with us anymore. Whereas, you know, and it's in hitting too. If you're worried about the previous at bat or the previous pitch, like, you're not ready for the next step. You're not ready for the next move you're going to make on the mountain. And so you have to be very neutral in what you're doing. And so we're actually going to talk about that next week as a hitting unit, and just start that mental stuff, because I want us to.
Let me add to that. It's been a while since I've seen free solo, but there was a couple things that kind of come to my mind that I remember. But part of it is, back again, what we've been talking about is confidence. He took his time until he was confident and ready to go. He didn't go when he was unprepared.
Yes.
And the other thing that he spent a lot of time doing is visualizing. Mm-hmm. Visualizing himself, how he's going to climb the mountain, how he's going to go through it. Yes. Picturing. And picturing is, you know, it's not, I joke around, people may not like this, but it's not mentalization. It is visualization. It's a vision thing. And it's learning to create pictures, and your brain responds to pictures. It doesn't respond to words. It responds to pictures. And the ability to put good pictures in is challenging for some people, but this is a great time for players that don't have a lot of action happening, is visualizing themselves doing the correct action. Spending the time visualizing, making their plays, making good throws. Visualize themselves hitting rockets and seeing how they want to be. Visualizing themselves, seeing themselves being a Texas A&M Aggie or a D1 softball player, or even just a student, wherever they want to go. The more they can spend time, you know, dreaming and pictures is definitely a valuable tool right now in this downtime for us.
Absolutely. It's huge. It's actually huge. And so I think I saw a video the other day where there was a young man who was watching a baseball game, but it was kind of from the shortstop position, and he was getting in his ready position and getting set, on the pitch. And it's just, everybody's kind of doing what they can do right now. And so I think that, like you said, the visualization of what you want to be and where you want to be as a hitter, you can do that at any time. And so a lot of these hitters do that, and that's why they're successful. You'll ask them like, hey, how are you seeing it so well? I've already been there. I've already been in the situation, because they put themselves in that situation, visually. Yeah.
One of my favorite visualization, there's probably 1,000 million visualization stories, but player we worked with, my dad worked with for many years, is former Kansas City Royals Mike Sweeney. Mm-hmm. And, Mike Sweeney was a very good visualizer. A lot of great athletes are great visualizers. And one of the things he would do as a player, this is in game, is when he was in the on-deck circle, he would see the live pitch, track the live pitch, see it out of the release point, see it all the way. And then what he would do is, in between each pitch, he would repicture that pitch, that same exact pitch. Mm-hmm. And then he would either put his swing on it, or he would take it. He would do his action to what he was going to do to that pitch. And he would set himself up so next time when he saw that pitch, it became deja vu, and knew exactly how to train his brain. Now, adding to this, and this is something that I was told the other day, because it's not something I think about, but so there's 32 brain areas that are tied to the vision. Okay. Mm. So all that action that we're doing, with our eyes and picturing, and it's lighting up the brain to success. And so again, we have a tool, we have some methods that we use from visualization and helping people visualize. And as you know, with your girls, we use our 3D cards, mm-hmm. And we try to get them. And one, it's training their depth perception, but two, it's getting them, when they can visualize and use that card, it gets them into that higher brain level that you want them to succeed, and it calms them down and refocuses them.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Our kids do that every day. And we implemented that in our BP. Vision, a station of vision is part of our BP every day. If it's behind the turtle, if it's, in the cages. But everything we do though, when it comes to drills and stuff, it always has a vision component. Everything. Yeah,
that's key. That's key.
Yes. There is not a thing we don't do that doesn't involve a vision component, to where we've got the numbers across, to where we're looking at upspin or downspin. And I like to talk about pitches in those terms too. Is like, hey, we're hitting upspin today. So now by just talking about that, we're like, okay, this is how we're going to hit upspin. Oh, this is how we're going to hit downspin. To the BP, we've got the numbers down, or we've done a thing that Travis and I did at Florida State, or to see it up, or we put a mat down like on the home plate. And so now we're working on balls that are up in the zone. And so we don't chase down as much. And if we get really good at that, we're learning how to hit the miss pitch. But there's a visual component to that, because now I've got to pick this ball up a lot sooner and then put a swing on it. So I'm making a decision a lot earlier. So the more I train that over and over and over and over again, then it becomes second nature. And again, that's where the extra base hits come in. Like I was so proud of our kids this year. When the season was cut short, we were well on our way. I think we were trending to hit 120 something doubles, and I think we were at 51 about when the season ended. And we had 51, and the previous year they had 51 total. And it's the same kids. It's just a matter of thought process now. They were just thinking about what they were trying to do. They were looking for a pitch to cause damage, and they were finding a lot of success. And I was telling them, like, listen, you hitting doubles is a great sign for us offensively. That means that you guys are locked in on what you're doing, because doubles will win us ball games. Home runs, they come and go. There's going to be where there's a matchup that doesn't work well, or there's elements involved, or it's just part of the deal. And singles are going to come and go. But against elite pitching, you're not going to string together 3 to 4 singles and score runs. You need to get some balls in the air to the big part of the park. And so, but those numbers come back to visually what they were doing and what they were looking for. We've had some hitters now that it was cool, especially that last series against Kentucky. We had hitters that were sitting change-ups. They were looking in, they were hunting pitches in, they were hunting pitches out, and like you could watch them and go, they are looking for things right now.
Yeah, you see better takes.
Oh, you see better takes. Like, you know exactly what they're trying to do. And when the hitters get to that point, then it becomes fun. Like, now all of a sudden we're in battle mode, and you see them kind of processing their bats. And it's a cliche. I always told them, like, the more you look for something, the better you're going to see it. And it's cliche, but it's so true. If I'm up there and I'm going, I'm just going to see it and hit it, you're not. You're not elite pitching. So I hate that term. Like, I'm just going to see it and hit it. You're not going to see it and hit it. You're not.
Yeah, that's the problem. Everyone goes, well, it's not about seeing it hit. I said, well, yeah, it's not, because that's a general thought. But it's when you really know how to see it, and then you really know how to hit it. That's what it's about.
Usually that term is like, I don't want to think. I just want to go up there and react. And it's like, you're gonna get some hits by doing that, but sustainability over time against good pitching, no chance. You better have a thought process, and you better be visually strong in what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I'm biased, Craig, obviously, because this is my lane of what we talk about. But if you improve some of the visual accuracy, and there's a couple ways to go about that, but visual intent, visual, maybe how their visual alignment also. But the idea of visual accuracy is, making contact with the ball at the right spot at the right time. If you improve that visual accuracy, that'll clean up a lot of mechanical flaws.
Oh.
Not all of them, but some of them. And if you work on cleaning up mechanical flaws and they still have visual inaccuracies, it doesn't matter how well you clean it. You might be a little bit better, but I don't think you're going to see as much rise as production.
No. And I kind of go on that too, because like I said, we're going to attack the vision side of it, we're going to attack the mental side of it, and then we're going to attack the mechanics. But what you'll find is what's interesting is when there's an intent and there's a thought process of what you're trying to swing at, and if you train that, swings will start to kind of morph into that. And so I've always kind of felt I like to work backwards a lot of times with athletes, and instead of, hey, I need you to get this and get to this angle and do this, this, and this, I'm like, hey, I need you to hit it here. Can we hit it here? Hit it here in the cage. Hit it right here. And so then all of a sudden you look up and that swing starts to morph and change a little bit, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
cool. Yeah, this is awesome. Again, we could talk forever, and we'll probably do this multiple times down the road on there. Is there, for the people who are listening to this, is there anything you want to put out there, recommend or thought process or anything?
Oh, where do I start? I mean, to me, it's about your message is only going to be as strong as what you believe in, right? And so you can get on these calls, and you can get on Twitter, and you can see all the things that what people say you should be doing. But I think as a hitting coach, like, teach the things you're good at, and you believe in, because those kids will buy into that. For me, it's always been vision and the mental side, and then mechanics, and I've seen success with hitters with average mechanics because they swing at the right pitches. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be part of a program that, led the nation in home runs, or were second in the nation in home runs. And there was every swing was completely different, but they knew what they were swinging at. They knew how to cause damage. They knew how to get the ball in the air. And so, stick with what you're good at. Continue to learn. I think as a coach, again, there's a lot of information out there, but learn it all and then decipher that through to your kids.
And what about any players that are listening? You have any recommendations for players?
Yeah, I mean, your swing. I mean, I'll say this all the time: an average mechanic swing can still cause damage if you know what you're looking for. I think it's that simple. It's where it starts. And so, I want our players, when they come in the dugout, to, if they have a question, it's not, hey, what did I do wrong, versus like, ooh, did I swing at the right pitch? Because 9 times out of 10, when you get yourself into a funk and you get yourself into a slide, it has everything to do with what you're swinging at versus how you're swinging it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everyone tuning in, and if they have more questions, feel free to reach out to us. I'm sure you'll know how to get a hold of us, and appreciate it for you guys' time, and good luck with everything else, and thank you for joining us.